Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and coming up in the next hour, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu shoots down incorrect reports of imminent hostage agreement with Hamas. Says no accord as of now. India sends second batch of humanitarian aid to Palestine. Indian Air Force aircraft carrying 32 tons of air departs for Egypt. Second India-Australia 2+2 defence and foreign ministerial dialogue set to take place in New Delhi on November 20th. Ministers expected to discuss a wide range of strategic, defence and security issues. And in the final clash of the Cricket World Cup, Virat Kohli and KL Rahul put India back on track after early jolts. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu refuted reports of imminent hostage agreement with Hamas. In a lengthy press conference, Netanyahu said there was no deal and yet to secure the release of some 240 hostages held by Hamas as of now, and dismissed a lot of incorrect reports in recent days about imminent agreements to free at least some of the hostages. He said that if a deal emerges, the Israeli public will be updated. Earlier, the Washington Post reported on Saturday that Israel, United States and Hamas were close to an agreement that would free dozens of women and children held hostage in Gaza in exchange for a 5-day pause in hostilities. Netanyahu also defended the military's actions in Gaza since October 7 attack by Hamas. During a briefing on Saturday in defense headquarters in Tel Aviv, Netanyahu said Israel abides by the laws of war.
Israel abides by the laws of the war. That's how our army works, the most moral army in the world. Humanitarian aid is also vital to maintain international support. Without humanitarian aid, even our best friends will find it difficult to support us over time. And it will be very difficult for us to continue the war until the end. We also said that we won't give fuel to Hamas, and this is right. These 2 trucks were requested for the operation of sewage and water pumps in south of the Gaza Strip.
Meanwhile, White House National Security Council spokesperson Adrienne Watson has said that U.S. is working hard to broker a deal between Israel, the U.S. and Hamas to free hostages held in Gaza in exchange for a 5-day pause in fighting. According to a media report, Israel, the United States and Hamas have agreed to a tentative deal that would free dozens of women and children held hostage in Gaza in exchange for a 5-day pause in fighting. The release, which could begin within the next several days, barring last-minute hitches, could lead to the first sustained pause in the conflict in Gaza, the report said, citing people familiar with its provisions. As per a 6-page agreement, all parties to the conflict would freeze combat operations for at least 5 days, while an initial 50 or more hostages are released in smaller batches every 24 hours. Israel's chief military spokesman meanwhile said that Israeli forces are now operating in the shaft which it exposed in Al-Shifa hospital. Military spokesman Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari said that locating and obtaining information about hostages is the first priority of the Israeli forces.
Forces continue to undertake 4 main efforts. The first is locating and obtaining information about the hostages. That's the highest priority. The second is locating weapons and command and control rooms. The third is finding terrorists that are in the area of hospital, and the fourth is a meaningful effort to expose the underground of the hospital and destroy it. Special forces are now operating in the shaft we exposed last night in Al-Shifa hospital, and we will release the materials from there in due course.
Meanwhile, a spokesman for Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthi military has said on Sunday that the group will target all ships owned or operated by Israeli companies or carrying the Israeli flag. The spokesman called on all countries to withdraw their citizens working on the crews of any such ships. Well, and on this story, we've been joined by our correspondent Mia Alberti from Beirut. Mia, a spokesman for Houthi military has said on Sunday that the group will target all ships owned or operated by Israeli companies or carrying the Israeli flag. What's the latest you're getting for us from there?
Absolutely, we're seeing this as the part of this effort by the so-called axis of resistance to deter Israel to continue its operations in Gaza. And this is something that we had heard Iran and Hezbollah saying that they would be operating on all fronts, and that includes from here in Lebanon, from Syria, from Yemen and from Iraq, where we have seen some US bases being attacked. And from Yemen we had seen a couple of weeks ago some drones trying to cross the Red Sea being intercepted by US Navy ships. But now this very concrete warning from the Yemenis that they will continue to attack, as you mentioned, Israeli companies and ships that are in that Red Sea. This could see an escalation as well, because we are seeing more missiles coming from Hezbollah. We're seeing now more missiles coming from Yemen as well. We're seeing a shift here as we continue to see the deterioration, the worsening of the conditions of people in Gaza. We are starting to see this increase in attacks from the axis of the resistance that they had warned Israel about if they continue their operations in Gaza. And certainly here in southern Lebanon, we are seeing that increase in cross-border exchange as well.
Well, definitely, Mia. And how about the situation on the border, Israel and Lebanon border?
Well, Israeli forces have been busy this morning. In just 2 hours, they have carried out at least 11 attacks in several villages in southern Lebanon, with the Lebanese authorities saying that Israel is not only bombing using artillery shelling, but also incendiary bombs, which is something that Israel has admitted to in the past. We have also heard from Hezbollah claiming 3 attacks against Israeli military positions in northern Israel. So we continue to see this. We had a huge attack that happened on Saturday overnight against the factory in Nabatea, which is in southern Lebanon, quite far from the border, and a significant town for the Shia community here in Lebanon, one that had not been attacked since 2006. So that was a new area of operation for the Israelis. And we continue to see this concern, not only from the Lebanese government, who continues to say that they are not interested in a war, but specifically for the people in Lebanon who are going through a tremendous economic crisis, especially those in the south who say that they are living in a war, although both sides don't call it that. They have been forced to leave their homes, forced to leave their jobs. They are living as refugees in the rest of Lebanon right now. We talk about tens of thousands of people who have left the south. For them, this is already a full-fledged war. So the concern continues to be very serious here in Beirut, that any more serious developments in Gaza could really lead to an escalation of the conflict here.
All right, on that note, thank you so much, Mia, for joining in. Well, in an op-ed published on Saturday, US President Joe Biden has dismissed increasing ceasefire calls for Gaza, asserting that it won't bring about peace in the region. Writing for the Washington Post, Biden said, as long as Hamas sightings to its ideology of destruction, a ceasefire is not peace. To Hamas's members, every ceasefire is time they exploit to rebuild their stockpile of rockets, reposition fighters, and restart the killing by attacking innocents again. Our goal should not be simply to stop the war for today. It should be to end the war forever, break the cycle of unceasing violence, and build something stronger in Gaza and across the Middle East so that history does not keep repeating itself. Biden also said that a two-state solution is the only solution to the enduring conflict. As we strive for peace, Gaza and the West Bank should be reunited under a single governance structure, ultimately under a revitalized Palestinian Authority, as we all work towards a two-state solution. Biden also wrote, I have been emphatic with Israel's leaders that extremist violence against Palestinians in the West Bank must stop and that those committing the violence must be held accountable. Thousands of people, including families, friends and supporters of Israeli hostages, marched on Saturday, calling on the Israeli government to do more to secure the release of around 240 people held hostage by Hamas terrorists since the attack on Israel on October 7. The 5-day march from Tel Aviv ended in front of Prime Minister Netanyahu's house in Jerusalem. Netanyahu issued a statement on Saturday inviting the families of hostages to meet with members of his war cabinet this week, but reiterated that currently no deal has been made with Hamas to release the captives. The captives, from babies to grandparents, are believed to be held in tunnels by Hamas terrorists under the Gaza Strip. Holding pictures of the hostages and missing relatives, the demonstrators waved Israeli flags.
We are marching today. It's the 5th day, the last day of this march. We are here, thousands of people, of course the family of the hostages, and alongside and with us, thousands of Israelis came to support us all the way to achieve our demand, to show our demand to the government, to the cabinet members, to do everything they can to bring the hostages back. Inbar, my partner, my girlfriend, she's really an amazing girl, funny, clever, sensitive, talented. She's an artist, she's a graphic design student, and she's brilliant. She's full of love and care. She went to the music festival as a caregiver, as a volunteer to help others. And she was kidnapped on October 7th from the music festival.
Today is my husband's birthday. He's 63, and his mother, Yafa Adar, is kidnapped. She is 85 years old, and we are not with her, and we are marching. We are marching to Jerusalem to bring her back, to shout and to say that she must be here back with all the kidnappers. We don't have time. We don't have 1 hour more. We don't know if she is alive.
Ministers from Arab and Islamic countries will visit China on Monday on the first stop of a tour aims at ending the conflict in Gaza. Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan said the tour will be the first step in carrying out decisions reached at a joint Arab and Islamic summit held in Riyadh this month. He said that the first stop will be China, then they will move to other capitals to convey a clear message that a ceasefire must be announced immediately and let aid come in. A second Indian Air Force C-17 aircraft carrying 32 tons of aid for civilians in Gaza departed for the El Arish airport in Egypt on Sunday. Taking to his official handle on X, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar reaffirmed New Delhi's commitment to extend humanitarian assistance to Gazans. The aid package comprised fluids and painkillers. The disaster relief material, weighing approximately 32 tons, also included tents, sleeping bags, tarpaulins, basic sanitary utilities and water purification tablets, among other items. Earlier, India sent 38 tons of humanitarian relief for civilians caught up in the ongoing ground offensive by Israeli forces in the Strip. Meanwhile, a Saudi aid plane is on its way to Gaza carrying aid and relief supplies. The aircraft is scheduled to travel to Egypt's Arish airport in northern Sinai. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Russia launches drone attack on Kyiv, second night in a row. Japanese Marines storm an island beach at the edge of the East China Sea. Second India-Australia 2+2 Defence and Foreign Ministerial Dialogue in New Delhi on 20th of November.
Turning crisis into opportunity, transforming ideas into action, stories of real change, tales of sustainable solution.
This series is going to tell stories of such change makers.
Watch Change Makers on DD India.
You're watching DD Indian News Hour and I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Russia launched several waves of drone attacks on Kyiv early on Sunday for the second night in a row, stepping up its assaults on the Ukrainian capital after several weeks of pause. Ukraine's Air Force said its air defense systems had destroyed 15 of 20 Russia-launched Shahid kamikaze drones over Kyiv, Poltava and Cherkasy regions. Head of the Kyiv's military administration said there had been no initial reports of critical damage or casualties. He also said that close to 10 of the drones were downed over Kyiv and its outskirts. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian army has said it pushed Russian forces back 3 to 8 kilometers from the banks of Dnipro, the first measurable advance for Kyiv's forces months into disappointing counteroffensive. Earlier, Russian drones hit infrastructure facilities in Ukraine in an overnight assault that caused power outages in more than 400 towns and villages in south, southeast and north of the country, according to the Ukrainian military. President Volodymyr Zelensky congratulated the Air Force for shooting down 29 out of 38 Iranian-made Shahid drones in several Ukrainian regions on Saturday.
Over the past night, almost 30 Shahid drones were destroyed in our sky. I thank all soldiers of mobile fire groups, aviation, of our Air Force and anti-aircraft missile forces. Your accuracy, guys, literally means life for Ukraine. The closer we are to the winter, the more Russians will try to make the strikes more powerful.
President Volodymyr Zelensky has sanctioned 37 Russian groups and 108 people, including a former prime minister and a former education minister, and said he aimed to fight wartime abductions of children from Ukraine and other Russian terror. The decree showed a range of 10-year penalties against individuals and 5-year penalties against non-profit groups. The sanctioned Russian groups included several whose names or websites indicate they work with children. In his nightly video address on Saturday, Zelensky said that the list included those involved in the abduction and deportation of Ukrainian children from the occupied territory, and each of them must be held responsible for what they have done.
Several decisions of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine regarding the sanctions toward almost 40 Russian legal entities and more than 100 individuals have been put into effect, including those involved in the abduction and deportation of Ukrainian children from the occupied territory, as well as individuals who in various ways help Russian terror against Ukraine. We are increasing the pressure of our state on them, and each of them must be held responsible for what they have done. And we will not leave any connection of these people with the Ukraine.
Жодного зв'язку цих людей з Україною ми не залишимо.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has given her support to the political solution to the Israel-Hamas conflict. Ursula called for a two-state solution as she handed over a consignment of humanitarian aid for Palestinians from Gaza. The aid was delivered to the Egyptian Red Crescent on Saturday. EU had quadrupled humanitarian aid to Gaza to $109 million and had organized 15 flights bringing aid for Gazans to the nearby Egyptian city of Arish.
Even as we deal with the urgency of today, we must also think about what the day after could look like and how Israelis and Palestinians can regain hope, have a perspective. And for this, they need a political solution. And this horizon is a two-state solution. It requires the agreement between Israelis and Palestinians. But the European Union is ready to support this process once the time comes, in very close cooperation with our friends and partners. Thank you so much.
On Sunday, British Finance Minister Jeremy Hunt said that he would enforce tax cuts that would push up inflation just days ahead of a significant budget update anticipated to include tax reductions. Hunt is due to present his autumn budget on 22nd of November, hoping to revive the fortunes of both a stagnant British economy and the governing Conservative Party ahead of an election expected next year.
Lower taxes are essential for a high-growth economy. So we do want to bring down the tax burden, but we will only do so responsibly. Now, you've just been talking about the fact we've halved inflation. The one thing we won't do is any kind of tax cut that fuels inflation. We've done all this hard work. We're not going to throw that away.
Germany, France and Italy have reached an agreement on how artificial intelligence should be regulated in the future. According to a joint paper which is expected to accelerate negotiations at the European level, the three governments are in favor of binding voluntary commitments for both large and small AI providers in the European Union. The paper favors no initial sanctions. The European Commission, the European Parliament and the EU Council are also negotiating on the bloc's position in this arena. The paper also mentioned a system of sanctions for violations of code of conduct. The German government is hosting a digital summit in Vienna in the upcoming week. Issues surrounding AI will be on the agenda when the German and Italian governments hold talks in Berlin on Wednesday. And in the latest series of protests, thousands of people marched through Madrid on Saturday against an amnesty law that Spain's socialists agreed over Catalonia's 2017 separatist bid in order to form a government. Madrid also witnessed clashes between protesters and riot police. The demonstration took place 2 days after Spain's socialist Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez won a 4-year term with the backing of Catalan and Basque nationalist parties in return for agreeing to the law. Sánchez has defended the law, saying an amnesty would help to diffuse tensions in Catalonia. And Argentina will vote in a runoff presidential election on Sunday, with Economy Minister Sergio Massa taking on political outsider Javier Milei to determine the future of the region's second largest economy. The runoff, the candidate who obtains the greatest number of total votes wins and would govern for a 4-year term. The winner will replace outgoing center-left President Alberto Fernandez. Economy will be the key factor in this election, which comes at a time of deep economic crisis for Argentina. With inflation now topping an annual 140%, fixing the country's finances is top of the agenda for voters and candidates alike. Argentina, a nation of some 45 million people, is one of the world's main food suppliers, with major exports of soy, corn, wheat and beef. It has one of the largest reserves of electric vehicle battery lithium and huge shale gas and oil potential. Former US President Donald Trump has said that if he wins the 2024 election and returns to the White House, he will cancel the Pacific trade deal being pushed by US President Joe Biden. Trump, the front-runner for the Republican presidential nomination, said he is against a regional trade deal being pursued by the Biden administration with 13 other countries. Trump argued that the trade deal would hollow the American manufacturing and lead to job losses. Japanese Marines in amphibious assault vehicles stormed an island beach at the edge of the East China Sea on Sunday in a simulated attack to dislodge invaders from territory that Tokyo worries is vulnerable to attack from China. As tensions run high with neighbors China, Russia and North Korea, the drill on the southwest island capped an 11-day series of exercises nationwide dubbed 05JX, meant to show the readiness of ground, sea and air forces to defend Japan's territory and infrastructure, including nuclear power plants. Ground Self-Defense Force amphibious assault vehicles launched from 2 Maritime Self-Defense Force landing ships anchored offshore. Other troops arrived in semi-inflatable rubber boats with heavy equipment carried out to shore to military hovercraft. The second India-Australia 2+2 Defence and Foreign Ministerial Dialogue will take place in New Delhi on November 20th. And during this meeting, Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will hold dialogue with their Australian counterparts, where they will discuss a wide range of strategic, defence and security issues. Rajnath Singh will have a bilateral meeting with Deputy Prime Minister and Defence Minister Richard Marles, whereas Jaishankar will hold the 14th Foreign Ministerial Framework Dialogue on 21st of November. With Foreign Minister Wong. The 14th Foreign Ministerial Framework Dialogue will take stock of cooperation under the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership and exchange views on regional and global issues of mutual interest. And India will be hosting the virtual G20 Leaders Summit on 22nd of November. India holds G20 presidency till November 30th this year. The meeting will be chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and leaders of all G20 members, including the chair of the African Union, as well as the 9 guest countries and heads of 11 international organizations have been invited. The virtual summit will take forward key outcomes and action points from the New Delhi G20 summit and will also review developments since then. The meet is also expected to push for effective implementation of various G20 decisions. The deliberations of Second Voice of Global South Summit, which was held on 17th of November 2023, will also feature in the discussions. Well, moving on, the wildfires raging in Bolivia and Amazon have killed dozens of animals and indigenous communities. The fire in the village of Bibosi in Humanitarian, northwest Bolivia, is a month old and has now spread to the nature reserves of the country. Fauna such as deers, tapirs, rodents and various species of birds died from carbon monoxide intoxication. The ongoing drought is also interfering with the firefighting efforts, reducing the river's water supply. A report from the Environment Ministry of Bolivia mentioned over 96,686 fire outbreaks in November itself. Flooding and landslides in Kenya's coastal region have halted rail cargo services to and from the port of city of Mombasa. Heavy rains linked to the El Nino phenomenon, followed by flash floods, have submerged towns across East Africa, leaving hundreds of thousands of people homeless. The death toll in Kenya has gone up to 46 and is expected to rise further. And on Saturday, the state-owned rail operator informed that the floods and a landslide on the railway line between the capital Nairobi and Mombasa have forced them to close all cargo services, adding that only limited passenger services would continue. In the neighboring country, Somalia, also 41 deaths due to the floods were recorded. Well, let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. The death toll from a magnitude 6.7 offshore earthquake in the southern Philippines rose to 8. According to the authorities, 2 people missing in a landslide after Friday's quake were confirmed dead. 13 people were injured from the tremor. More than 50 houses and other buildings were also damaged. Russian nationalist Igor Girkin, who is in custody awaiting trial for inciting extremism, has said he wants to run for president in that March 2024 election. A group of supporters cited his letter from the prison revealing a presidential bid. Girkin has repeatedly called for a more effective fight in the Ukraine war. Save the Children, a humanitarian organization for children, sounded the alarm, reporting a surge in diseases like acute respiratory infections and diarrhea among returning migrants from Pakistan. In the last month alone, Save the Children recorded over 3,000 cases of acute respiratory infections and 1,200 cases of diarrhea among migrant children making their way back from Pakistan. And still to come on DD India News Hour. International Monetary Fund revises Pakistan's foreign loan requirement to $25 billion. Rescue operations underway in northern Indian state of Uttarakhand to rescue 41 workers. Largest Hindu temple outside of India opens in New Jersey. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and let's have a look at the headlines once again. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu shoots down incorrect reports of imminent hostage agreement with Hamas, says no accord as of now. India sends second batch of humanitarian aid to Palestine. Indian Air Force aircraft carrying 32 tons of aid departs for Egypt. Well, this is the final clash of Cricket World Cup 2023, and India are slowly getting on the track after a shaky start. The OpenAI board is in discussions with Sam Altman to return as the CEO of the company, according to the media reports. The decision came after ChatGPT usage plummeted by 43% after the sudden firing of Altman. It also jeopardized the sale of OpenAI employee shares that would value the startup of about $86 billion. Earlier on Friday, the company has ousted CEO Sam Altman on the grounds of breakdown of communications between him and the company. Backed by Microsoft, in November 2022, OpenAI released ChatGPT, kicking off the generative AI craze. The International Monetary Fund has revised Pakistan's foreign loan requirement to $25 billion for this fiscal year, reducing it by $3.4 billion. Media reported added that it also lowered Pakistan's economic growth projection to just 2%. Sources in Pakistan's finance ministry, the IMF, had also lowered its inflation projection for the country to 22.8% for this fiscal year, reducing it from 25.9%. The IMF did not accept the finance ministry's projections for the current account deficit, imports, economic growth, inflation, and gross financing requirements. However, it adjusts all these numbers during the first review talks in comparison with the estimates of July this year, as per media reports. The largest Hindu temple outside of India has opened its door in the United States of New Jersey. Built with handicraft stone and wood from around the world, the massive edifice pays homage to the rich Hindu culture. DD India's Jody Jacobs was taken on a guided tour of the sacred new multi-peak Mahamandir.
Right in the heart of New Jersey, the state has the highest concentration of Hindus of any U.S. state. The Shwanminarai Akshardham, a sacred Hindu temple and a place those that built it say is an iconic testament to Hindu art, architecture and spirituality.
A lot of the stonework and mostly all of the woodwork that you see here was all handcrafted. It's an art that was born in ancient India and was passed on from generation to generation. And so those special artisans, it's an artistry that you can't learn at any university, any trade school. It's something that was almost just passed on from family to family, generation to generation. So for me, it's really amazing to think that the forefathers who built the temples from thousands of years ago, their lineage are the ones who built this temple right here.
At a cost of some $96 million, the temple is located on 180 acres. That's about 135 American football fields. It also houses thousands of statues. On the day we visit the temple, it's a celebration of Annakut, a festival celebrated after Diwali when traditional vegetarian delicacies are prepared and arranged in the temple. While for Hindus, the temple is the heart of religious life and where they believe God resides in sacred images of deities, the Shwanminarai Akshardham is open to everyone.
What we're walking through at the moment is known as the Wisdom Plinth, or the Jagati Peeth. And the Wisdom Plinth is truly the foundation of the Mahamandir that is standing in front of us. It's a 13-tiered structure, and what we're seeing around here are plaques with messages from leaders, thinkers of the past. We have Rumi, we have Albert Einstein, we have Abraham Lincoln, we have Martin Luther King Jr., embedded with Rigved alongside. We have the spiritual successors of Bhagwan Swaminarayan. We have messages that are truly just beyond borders.
This is a visual catalogue of Hinduism, we are told. Since its opening in October, it's been attracting visitors by the thousands. Many coming to see the elaborate architecture and design. For others, it's a more spiritual experience. Close to 13,000 volunteers from across the world spent close to 12 years to build this temple. It is said to be the largest Hindu temple in the world to be built in modern times. A landmark of Hindu architecture and culture. Jody Jacobs in New Jersey, reporting for DD India.
And Uganda hosts more refugees than any other country in Africa, but it is now threatening to shut borders to those fleeing war on the continent. Dwindling resources and underfunding to its aid programs is making hard for country's refugees to survive, as Leon reports.
Margaret Atieng fled the war in Sudan 5 years ago. Ever since, the Rwamwanja refugee camp has been her home.
Life I see is too hard to me. I see everything is hard. Like school for my kid is not okay. Even security for me is not okay.
Even now, refugees like Margaret continue to arrive in the East African country, many fleeing conflicts in the Democratic Republic of Congo and South Sudan. Most seek shelter in camps in western and northwestern parts of Uganda. After a recent count, Uganda has close to 1.6 million refugees, making it Africa's largest refugee host nation. A drop in funding has affected the refugees' well-being, leaving many with no access to basic needs. The UN's refugee agency says about $800 million is needed annually over the next 3 years to meet the critical needs of refugees. Thousands living in these settlements need food and health care urgently.
Category 1, those that you would call the acutely vulnerable, most vulnerable. Those that even when you give them, without support, they wouldn't, absolutely. They would never survive. And so that is the basis for the targeted programming.
Uganda says the absence of adequate funding is taking a toll on its capacity to ensure all the refugees are able to survive. The UN's food agency, WFP, has since July this year offered a third of its food rations to at least 82% of the refugees, while 4% of all refugees have stopped receiving food assistance.
The reality is that the World Food Programme has not been providing 100% rations in Uganda since 2020. And because our funding levels are as low as they are, we have to do two things. We have to prioritize those resources to the most vulnerable, and at the same time, do what we can to support those who are less vulnerable to achieve self-reliance.
Last year, the country received less than half of the funding it needed to look after its refugee population. And further cuts are expected as WFP continues to struggle with a funding shortfall. More than $70 million is required by February 2024 to provide for Uganda's refugees. Money that could mean the difference between life and death for thousands like Margaret. Leon Sanyange in Uganda, reporting for DD India.
Well, Viman Bangladesh Airlines has decided to spread its wings to the southern Indian city of Chennai from December 16th, especially to facilitate Bangladeshi medical service seekers. Viman Chief Executive Officer Shafiul Azim said that Dhaka-Chennai-Dhaka is a much demanded route for Bangladeshi nationals to India, and we have decided to operate 3 weekly flights on the route. He said that flight will be operated on Mondays, Thursdays and Saturdays. Currently, one of Bangladesh's private carriers, US Bangla Airlines, is operating flights on Dhaka-Chennai-Dhaka. Back home, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi slammed Congress for wasting 5 years on infighting at his rally in Rajasthan. Prime Minister said Rajasthan's Congress leaders have been busy in putting each other off and doing no work for people.
कल पूरा देश क्रिकेट के जोश से भरा हुआ है। क्रिकेट में बैट्समैन आता है और अपनी टीम के लिए रन बनाता है, लेकिन कांग्रेस वालों में ऐसा झगड़ा है कि रन बनाना तो दूर, ये लोग एक दूसरे को रन आउट करने में लगे हैं। कांग्रेस सरकार के 5 साल एक दूसरे को रन आउट करने में बीत गए। जो बचे हैं वो महिलाओं और अन्य मुद्दों पर गलत बयान देकर हिट विकेट किए जा रहे हैं, हिट विकेट हुए जा रहे हैं। और बाकी जो है वो पैसे लेकर, रिश्वत लेकर मैच फिक्सिंग कर लेते हैं और कुछ काम नहीं करते।
Relief and rescue operations continue in northern Indian state of Uttarakhand for the 8th consecutive day today to rescue 41 workers trapped in the under-construction tunnel in Uttarkashi. The Border Roads Organization and the construction wing of the Indian Army is clearing a path for rescue machines to reach the top. Indian Road Transport and Highways Minister Nitin Gadkari and Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami conducted an on-site inspection of the operations. Minister Gadkari said in a press conference that expert teams have been roped in the rescue operations.
मैं इतना ही बता सकता हूँ कि ये जो ऑगर मशीन है, ये अगर ठीक से चल गई तो हम 2-2.5 दिन में वहाँ तक पहुँच सकते हैं और वो भी प्रयास सबसे नज़दीक होने वाला है। पर इसके अलावा अलग अलग प्रयास चाहे कितने भी दिन के हो, अगर उसके लिए भी हमने वर्टिकल भी अनेक प्रकार से जगह देकर वहाँ भी अंदर जाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं।
As rescue operations continue for 8 days to save the 40 trapped workers at Silkyara Tunnel in Uttarkashi, Secretary in India's Ministry of Road Transport and Highways Anurag Jain announced on Sunday the decision to take up a 5-option action plan.
रात के 2 बजे तक बात करने के बाद 5 अलग-अलग एजेंसीज को वहां अपनी एक्सपर्ट एडवाइस के लिए भेजा गया। उसके बाद कल वहां पे एक हाई लेवल मीटिंग हुई। माननीय प्रधानमंत्री कार्यालय से भी लगातार इस चीज़ की मॉनिटरिंग की जा रही है, तो वहाँ से एक जो पुराने पूर्व रिटायर्ड सचिव हैं उनको वहाँ भेजा गया कोऑर्डिनेशन के लिए। उन्होंने भी एक मीटिंग ली सभी इन ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस के। तो कल वहाँ पे जो निर्णय हुआ कि 5 अलग अलग एजेंसीज अलग अलग जो ऑप्शंस तलाशे गए थे उस पर एक साथ काम शुरू करें।
Well, let's take a look at other stories making news. Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra outreach program is being observed in the Indian city of Tawang in Arunachal Pradesh. The pledge for Viksit Bharat was also taken in a village in Tawang. The Sankalp Yatra aims to reach out to people, create awareness and provide benefits of welfare schemes to people. The 2-week-long India International Trade Fair that started from November 14 is opening for general public from today onwards till November 27. The fair is likely to attract around 40,000 visitors each day and could swell to around 1 lakh visitors per day during weekends and holidays. All schools in Indian capital New Delhi will reopen from Monday according to an order by Delhi government. The schools remained closed in the national capital due to an increased pollution levels. However, outdoor sports activities and morning assemblies will not be held for next 1 week. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Team India recovering from shaky start in a Cricket World Cup 2023 against Australia. And it's World Toilet Day today. Stay tuned to watch a special report. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. And time now for sport. And let's begin with India versus Australia, which is happening in Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad. India got off to a rollicking start after Australian skipper Pat Cummins won the toss and elected to bowl. Captain Rohit Sharma led from the front after Shubman Gill was out cheaply. India reached 76 runs in less than 10 overs as Sharma whacked the Aussies' attack. He was dismissed for 47 runs in 31 balls. Following this, Australia also snared Shreyas Iyer quickly to peg back India's scoring rate. And after that, Virat Kohli and KL Rahul steered the Indian innings. Both of them have scored half-century. So far, it's been a dream run for Rohit Sharma. Men in blue, as well as they are invincible in the tournament with 10 wins and 10 matches. The road to the final has been nothing short of spectacular. On the other hand, Australia has lost 2 matches in the league stage, but they bounced back with 8 consecutive wins. They will eye their 6th title. Well, for more on this, I've been joined by my correspondent Tapas Bhattacharya, who's there outside the Narendra Modi Stadium. Tapas, as I talk to you, it's 178 for 5, and India had a shaky start. How's the atmosphere in the stadium?
Well, the atmosphere is a little somber considering the fact that with the kind of start that India had earlier with Rohit Sharma and Shubman Gill going berserk, and then after Shubman Gill's wicket, Rohit Sharma took over the mantle and scored some quick runs. But after his fall, the going has been a little tough, especially with Virat Kohli and KL Rahul. They were trying to stitch together a partnership, and Kohli got out after a well-made half-century. But one expected a little more once he scored that half-century. One thought that he and Rahul will take the game forward and stitch together a strong partnership, but that didn't happen. And after Virat Kohli's wicket, the run rate has actually reduced to almost nothing. So right now, as you mentioned, it's 178 for 5, and just now Hazelwood got the wicket of Ravindra Jadeja, and right now Sky and KL Rahul are the only specialist batsmen out in the middle, and a lot will depend upon both of them. They still have 15 overs left, so overs are not a problem, balls are not a problem. The only thing that they require is to play out these 15 overs. They should not get bowled out. The Indian team should not get bowled out, and they should at least score over and above anything over 250, 260 at least to put up a decent fight in this particular final. Though, as I mentioned, it's a bit of a somber mood in the stadium. They want to cheer the team, and whenever there is a boundary or there is a good shot that played by being played by the batsman, the crowd cheered them up quite vociferously. But even then, the scene doesn't look that great. The players, especially the batters, are finding it difficult to score at this slow and dry pitch. And although as I mentioned, it's a slow and dry pitch, it will be difficult for the Aussie batsmen also to score. Now, the important part, that one has to take into consideration is the dew factor. How much dew factor will come into consideration later part in the innings, that remains to be seen. But it's not an easy wicket, and Australia will find it difficult to play the Indian spinners the way Indian batters are finding it difficult to get going against Zampa and Maxwell.
Well, definitely stay with us, Tapas. We also have our correspondent Anil Thomas with us. Anil, shaky start for India. It's 179 for 5 as I talk to you. What do you think would be the score by the end of 50 overs for Team India, and how much total would be enough for the opposition on this ground, on this wicket?
Well, the first priority will be to play out those 15 overs left, not get bowled out, look at a respectable score. It does not matter what you have on the board. What matters is the courage to fight back, because Australians also would find it find the going difficult on this particular track. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be an uphill task for either of the teams. First, the two settled batsmen there in the middle. KL Rahul has to anchor the innings. Suryakumar Yadav can hang around for another 5 overs and then try and break free to push up the run rate, to push up the scoring. And that's how the team should approach. From here on, you have 15 overs left. You break it into 3 sets of 5 overs each, and you take the battle to the opposition and look forward to making a great match of it. Well, I am at this point of time in the DD newsroom, and the atmosphere here, just like Tapas mentioned in the ground, is not that great. it's a bit of a somber mood. Let's get a quick reaction from the people around.
Sure.
How do you look forward to this game? What went wrong, do you feel?
I actually don't want to sound pessimistic, but I feel at this point Australia's decision to elect to bowl first is really paying off. But I feel India has a great depth of talent, and at this point I'm just hoping for an exciting comeback.
Okay. Akriti, a quick word on what went right, what went wrong?
I'm not sure, but the only thing that I'm praying for right now would be the same sentiment as the 140 crore citizens of this country are feeling.
Okay. A quick word from here, the bulletin editor, he's been busy compiling things. Hasan, your word on what exactly is going right?
Yes, it's going very well. And in the initial way, when the Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli batted, that was a very fantastic batting. I was expecting much from the Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma, but slightly Rohit Sharma played not good. He has disappointed some a bit, but Virat Kohli made 50. So I'm excited that the match will completely in the hand of India, and India will win only because I think that India has a very good bowlers like Shami and Siraj. So they are going to make some differences, and I think that it's going to play a very nice.
Good contest. Agnik, a quick word from you on what's going right for the Australians.
I feel that match is evenly placed now. But I hope that India will do something great and will win.
We all are hoping for that particular win. Mark is getting ready for that big show that he's going to anchor tonight. Mark, a quick word from you on what's going right, what's going wrong either way.
Well, I think the match is evenly contested, really. I mean, India started well. It's Australia's come back into the match. India still has something in it. There are 12 overs left. We are ready to see the death overs now. Hopefully, India can post about 280 on the board, and that will be a good match.
Okay, 280 on the board. You are talking about that in India-Pakistan quarterfinals in Bangalore. Mihir has been handling the headlines, has been handling all the tickers for us. Mihir, a quick word from you. What do you expect from here on last 12 overs?
I'm just expecting a big miracle for Team India, and it's in its favor. That's all. That's all can I say.
Okay, so the excitement, the mood, as we were talking about, the mood is not great, but we are in that final, stint of power play, the home run that you can say in one-day cricket, and we can expect the Indian batsmen to come good, but for that they'll have to survive those next 12 to 13 overs.
Definitely, and it was a mixed reactions from the newsroom as Mr. Hassan was saying that we have a good bowling lineup. So Anil, I want to ask you that how will the pitch behave as the dew factor will come in, as the day will progress and Australia will come on to bat?
Well, we'll also have to take a close look at how Australia approaches the semi-final. Travis Head along with David Warner will try and come and do a very similar thing. It will be Rohit Sharma multiplied by 2 because both of them will try to hit the bowlers out and unsettle the Indian opening bowling attack. That's when India will be pushed back. If Indian bowlers, Bumrah, Shami, along with Siraj can peg the Australian backs, pick a wicket or two early, it could be an interesting contest. But these two batsmen will surely come out and go after the bowlers. They will try and put a 50-60, quick fire 50-60 on board inside 6 overs. And that's how they took the match away from South Africans. So something similar would be tried here. But I think this particular dew factor that we are all been talking about, there would be a bit of dew factor that would come into play. The ball, gripping the ball for the spinners would be a bit difficult. But I think, if India can put anywhere above 260 to 280 range, it becomes an interesting contest for either of the sides.
Well, definitely, Anil, stay with us. Tapas is there outside Narendra Modi Stadium. Tapas, we are seeing what is the atmosphere inside the stadium, but tell us what is the atmosphere outside the stadium now that India had a shaky start and around 270 to 280 total is expected on the scoreboard the way they are playing.
Right, Siddharth. So right now the current run rate is somewhere hovering in the region of 5 runs per over. And if by that logic, if we go 250 is on the card, and at least India should look at getting 250, and anything over that 250, 260, even 270, I won't believe that 270 will be a good fighting total. And with as I mentioned, not just a fighting total, one believe that they will consider themselves ahead if they manage to score 260, 270 run, for the simple reason the ball is expected to turn, and second innings is not going to be easy, as you mentioned. Anil was also talking about the dew factor. Dew factor will, I mean, it doesn't look like it will have that much of a major point, especially in the later part of the inning. So one expects that both the current players who are currently playing, both KL Rahul as well as Surya Kumar Yadav, they take the game all to the 50th over and put some runs on board. So that is one part. The other thing is that I just wanted to show you something about this particular outside the stadium. Still people are outside queuing up to get inside, and it's no, I'm not kidding with you, there is no space inside, and yet people are outside just waiting to get a ticket or somebody to get them inside. So if that's the craze of this of this sport in this country, in India, cricket is not just a game, it's a religion. And as I mentioned, if you have a religion, you have a demigods, and our players are demigods, and today is the time to showcase that they truly have those powers to come up with the goods.
Well, definitely, Tapas, you said it very right, that in India, cricket is not just a game, it's a religion. On that note, thank you so much, Tapas and Anil, for joining in. Well, World Toilet Day is celebrated every year on 19th of November. In 2001, the NGO World Toilet Organization, founded by philanthropist Jack Sim in Singapore, declared November 19 as World Toilet Day. This year, the theme of World Toilet Day is accelerating change. Watch this special report.
हमारी मां बहनों को इज्जत के लिए हम कम से कम शौचालय का प्रबंध नहीं कर सकते हैं। आपको लगता होगा क्या लाल किले से सफाई की बात करना, लाल किले से टॉयलेट की बात बताना, ये कैसा प्रधानमंत्री है? भाइयों बहनों, मैं नहीं जानता हूं मेरी कैसी आलोचना होगी, इसे कैसे लिया जाए, लेकिन मैं मन से मानता हूं। मैं गरीब परिवार से आया हूं, मैंने गरीबी देखी, और गरीब को इज्जत मिले, इसकी शुरुआत यहीं से होती है।
In 2014, Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched the Swachh Bharat mission from the ramparts of the Red Fort and appealed to the people to make India open defecation free. Subsequently, the government of India started the ODF, Open Defecation Free campaign. With no time, it became a mass movement. People willingly started coming forward to contribute to it by offering voluntary service. The construction of toilets began rapidly, and even before the expected time, the country became open defecation free.
हमारे शहरी क्षेत्रों में जो कम्युनिटी टॉयलेट्स हैं उनको ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा बनाएं और उनको इतना अच्छे से चलाएं ताकि लोग वहाँ पे जाके सस्ते में ड्रिंकिंग वाटर ले सकें, टॉयलेट्स यूज़ कर सकें, बेदिंग फैसिलिटीज़ यूज़ कर सकें.
Toilets are the foundation of public health and play a crucial role in environment conservation. After the Prime Minister's appeal, this campaign turned into a mass movement at a remarkable pace. In rural areas, it has not only contributed significantly to eliminating many diseases, but has also brought substantial relief. This year, the theme of World Toilet Day is accelerating change. From ODF, Open Defecation Free, to ODF++, that is, a garbage-free area, the meaning of cleanliness has truly transformed. Now India is moving ahead in the direction of waste processing. With inputs from Shaila Nagar, Siddharth Bhardwaj's report, DD India.
All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of today. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bhardwaj. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.